I used to say this, it's either you pay with time, you go work for free, or you pay
Yep.
with money, like you find someone who has what you want, you just pay them straight up. Or the
Yep.
third way is the blood, sweat, and tears method, the slowest and most expensive
Yes.
way. You just go crawling and scraping across that landmine field and hope you don't get blown up.
10 years and 10,000 hours. The system works. Steph and Arnie works. We're all proven. What's not proven is you. And you gotta respect the grind.
Welcome to Respect the Grind with Steph and Arnie.
I love this moment in your mind. You're like, what do you mean? I'm making $350 a month passive. You didn't even think of it. You kind of just fell into it. Tell me about what's the mind shift happening there? Because I had a similar moment, but I want to hear yours first.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a struggle because it went from because I started over at a new job and I'm in training. I'm not making a lot of money and I'm paying for this mortgage every month. And out of a moment of frustration and feeling like it was actually a moment of devastation, I decided to go and hire a property manager. And then, $350 a month doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're 22, when you're coming out of college, $350 a month was a whole work study week worth of work, So it's like now I'm doing that on autopilot, and for me, it clicked. For me, it was just the shift that I can think of something, put something in place, invest in it, and then it will produce income for me without me having to always put in more work to continue to produce the income. I'm not money hungry. I'm trying to get money out of the way. I don't want to have to live every day dictated by someone else telling me, how many hours I can work, how many days I can be sick, when I can take vacation.
I had the exact same experience with a woman. About 10 years ago when I got in this, it was the same thing. You're all about the money. You're all about the money. I'm like, no, I actually want to own a house and a car and actually live one day. And I'm not going to sit in my mom's basement forever. And yeah, you need money to pay for that. And it's funny because that same girlfriend 10 years later, we broke up 10 years ago. She reached out to me and she's like, hey, I need help surviving. And I'm like, of course you do. Because you've been hanging out for 10 years. And, back then, dude, it was all about the money back then. I just want to flip a house, make 10 grand.
That's the one thing that's not really taught as much as it should be, but it's the one thing that no matter what continent you live on in the world, you deal with some form of currency for your standard of living. I mean, unless you're completely like a Rasta in the mountains or something, but everybody else deals with money, and everyone else has to work for money if you don't figure out how to make money work for you. So for me, man, that's just when the epiphany started. It was like, I've been trained and conditioned to go into the workforce, and I have to start over and figure out how to become an entrepreneur, how to make money work for me.
When I started out on my own, our first year I did 1 deal. Second year I did a little development, 4 units. Third year I did 12 deals, but I hired a coach. And when I hired a coach to kick my ass and train me, I did 12 deals. I did 24 deals and 30, and then we got up to 50, and it just kept going on from there. And it was all about having someone who'd been there before, who who knew all the things, And now I have a international coaching company. We coach people in Canada and the U.S.
You have to pay for a real world tuition one way or the other. It's either by paying someone for the knowledge or losing the money trying to figure it out on your own. But you're gonna learn that lesson either way.
Damn, you mean it always costs? I used to say this, it's either you pay with time, you go work for free, or you pay with money, like you find someone who has what you want, you just pay them straight up. Or the third way is the blood, sweat, and tears method, the slowest and most expensive way. You just go crawling and scraping across that landmine field and hope you don't get blown up.
And man, paying for the knowledge always comes out the least expensive one when you look at the time value of your money and your loss that you'd have otherwise. One big lesson that I've learned is that you have 2 different types of people mainly, the internally motivated and externally motivated. And the externally motivated person really requires somebody to handhold and walk them through the process. And the second you let go of their hand, they're idle, and they get stuck in that circle of what's the first step, what's the next step. Whereas an internally motivated person is going to go out there and get it. You give them the tools, they're going to go and run with it, and they're going to bump their head, but they're going to keep going because they don't need any outside forces to push them going forward. And I really believe the only ones that are successful in this industry or anything that's entrepreneurial are the internally motivated folks.
I've been trying to figure out, when I started coaching people, I used to get depressed when they wouldn't do it. And then at one point I realized it's nature, and the baby birds don't all fly. And when you walk
Right.
down the street and you see a dead baby bird, you know that he didn't fly and his brothers or sisters all did. And that's just nature. And I've always like
Yes.
wanted to save that 50%, but I guess, can you save that other 50%? I don't know.
Don't focus so much on becoming an employee. Take all the classes, all the lessons you learn in school, and think about how you can apply that to something that you're going to build for yourself.
Chris, last question of the day. What is the one thing that young people need to succeed these days?
They need the ability to, let me see, what the one thing I would say just the tenacity to not give up and to not quit.
You mean they got to respect the grind?
They got to respect the grind, man. Got to respect the grind.
I get everybody with the trick question. I'm like, what do you think they need? They're like, man, they got to respect the grind.
You got to, man.
Yeah, we had Robert Kiyosaki on the show. He said self-discipline. I said, you mean respect the grind? He said, I like my way better. I said, okay, Robert. It's all good. Awesome. Hey, Chris, how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more?
All right. So my website is just my name, chrissenegal.com, ChrisSenegal.com. Has links to my social media. You can shoot me an email from there. It's the easiest way to get to me.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much for being on the show. Respect the grind.
Welcome to Respect the Grind with Steph and Arnie.